This is Richard Flax at MoneyFarm, talking about a couple of the things that have caught our attention over the past couple of days. Firstly, on the geopolitical side, we've seen increasing noises between the US and China regarding blame for the coronavirus and for its progression around the world. The US blaming China in a variety of ways, and the concern here is that it translates into some policy action that can potentially slow or change the trajectory of the recovery that we will hopefully begin to see. And that's something that should concern financial markets. On the UK side, we think Brexit will begin to re-emerge as a significant topic of conversation. And the current indications are that the two sides remain relatively far apart. And so the prospect of what would once have been called a no-deal scenario seems to be rising as we get towards some various deadlines for progress. And if you didn't think that was a very good idea a few months ago, it's unlikely you think it's a good idea now. And that's something that could potentially weigh on UK assets as we go into the second half of the year. Elsewhere, we've seen some comments from the great US investor Warren Buffett. Remember that during the great financial crisis, Buffett made some very significant investments during a time of great volatility. On this occasion, he's done very little, and that's to a large extent because central banks moved so quickly to provide liquidity to financial markets and to enable liquidity for a lot of companies that otherwise might not have had access. Still, it's also notable that Buffett remarked that some of the terms were rather more generous than perhaps he would have given. And then lastly, we've seen some results from some of the large tech companies towards the end of last week. It's interesting to see that even the relative winners from the current crisis, companies that have done relatively well, we're talking firstly about the additional costs that they were incurring, distribution costs, but also you get the sense that perhaps they don't want to show great results. They don't want to show that they're being very successful during the time when a lot of people, a lot of businesses around the world are struggling. And it's interesting because as we come hopefully towards the end of the healthcare crisis, as we begin to see some progress there, the shape of the global economy and the shape of how businesses will behave going forwards perhaps comes more into focus. And perhaps you see some CEOs beginning to think very carefully about how they should position their businesses, how they should think about interacting with their various stakeholders, be it shareholders, be it employees, be it governments, and be it with the broader society. And that particular equation, for instance, in terms of how much you return to shareholders, how much in dividends or in share buybacks, those sorts of questions may get different answers in the future to the ones that they would have done only a few months ago. Thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to speaking to you again soon.